At the time, we were just cutting checks. And it wasn't until later on that we figured out how to make money with this project. But it took us a minute of kind of flailing around and going like, okay, maybe this wasn't the greatest idea.
Welcome back to the Story of the Deal, where I am sitting down with the investors and developers behind really cool commercial real estate projects to get the full story for you on exactly how these are done so that you can go out and replicate it. Today we're sitting down with Steve Mabee, the developer behind the Volta here in East Nashville. It's one of the first projects that I worked on when I opened up the Cobble Group, my commercial real estate brokerage. So personally very proud of this project. They definitely encountered some issues along the way and had to make a major pivot. Otherwise they were going to lose millions of dollars. So stay tuned to hear exactly how they handled that so that you can fight that problem if it ever pops up along the way. Tell us about your original vision for the commercial space on the ground floor of the property.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing. The project changed. So we started out with, I think we had the space for 4 commercial suites down here, 3,000 square feet on each side of the demising wall, which could have been broken up into multiple suites. And then we had 16 residential apartments on floors 2 and floors 3, intended to be rented long-term. So when we were in here, this was the office for our business, North by Northeast Development. Bruce's business, ZMX. We set up like a shared office, and then a company that we had together called Greenline Partners. And Greenline Partners was the company that developed this whole project. And so we shared a lot of assets. We shared our accounting staff. We shared some of our management staff, like good kind of symbiotic relationship that we had, and we shared this space. Plus, anytime anyone wanted to see my karate moves, I could do those.
You had plenty of space.
Yeah, exactly.
For activities.
For activities, yeah.
So many activities!
I'm Steve Mabee. I came to Nashville 2001 as a recording engineer, making music for a long time. That's what I did for a living, was made indie rock records.
Now raise your goblet of rock.
Got my power turned off a lot over 10 years and decided in 2006 or 7 to get into real estate. I was a real estate agent for a long time, but I sort of slightly hung it up in 2012 when I started doing residential real estate development. So here in the Inglewood area, we started a company called North by Northeast Development in 2011, 2012, building residential houses. We were building probably about 30 to 40 houses a year, and usually 1 to 2 medium-sized commercial projects by then. 2015, we started Greenline Partners. We built buildings like this. So we're kind of a big base hit kind of company. So we were building assets that ranged from $5 to $10 million in value, and we would usually do about one of them a year.
What drew you to these smaller 3-story mixed-use commercial projects compared to residential?
I mean, basically, it was just what the little guys could grab up. And so, we were just competing with big-time developers at the time, and they didn't look at parcels like this. They didn't look at 1-acre parcels.
So how did you initially come across this site?
It's funny, we bought quite a few parcels on Gallatin. We own a fair amount of real estate on parcel, and almost everything that we've bought are ones that had overpriced signs in the yards for a very long time. And so this is a typical one where I think it was priced quite a bit higher with some residential real estate agent's sign in the yard for 3 or 4 years. Just a big open piece of grass. This used to be grazing land for a bull. And
one bull.
One single bull, yeah, who was buried back there somewhere. Finally got to that part where we got a little more gutsy with just making offers on parcels. And so we made the offer a lot less than whatever it was priced at, and ended up getting it.
What kind of due diligence did you conduct? Feasibility studies, inspections, zoning analysis, environmental stuff like that?
For a project like this, there is a lot of due diligence, specifically because you're on a major corridor. And I would, tell anyone who's ever considering to do anything on a major corridor to get deep. It's very common for a major street like this to increase their right-of-way every 2 years. And so right-of-ways change often. There is fiber, there is stormwater, there is sewer. Stormwater is probably one of the ugliest things about any city. So due diligence here in this project uncovered the fact that we were going to have to route our stormwater almost 300 feet off site, meaning that we had to pull up 200 or 300 feet of Gallatin and route our stormwater all the way down there. And the moment you have to work on a major thoroughfare, things get really expensive. Often so many people shortchange land planning. They'd like to put something under contract. They've got, they want a deal, they want something to happen. And they go and they put it under contract and they imagine what they think they can do. And then later on, they get the news that they can't do what they think they can do. And so that was where a company like Smith G was absolutely key. And so they helped us evaluate the potential of the land. And then we went to work underwriting that. Evaluation of a commercial deal is always a perspective of two different people. So you're writing a program that tells you what you're gonna do. And you're doing that through the lens of both the investor, the lender, and then what you consider reality. And we've always tried to underwrite our deals as if we are lenders, so that it looks just the way that the lender looks at it.
What does that look like?
Just really strong data showing loan to cost, loan to value, equity in, debt service coverage ratio, value, all of the key data points that are really the ones that they care about. Like every data point that they really care about, stabilization costs, where the money's coming from, all the things that they look at just in one compact sheet. Commercial construction is expensive. It's just, everybody's got a price tag that's double of what a residential price tag is. So for us at the time, Inglewood wasn't like an incredibly valuable neighborhood. So we have to make decisions very early on in the phase about what this thing is going to be, how much it's going to cost to build, based on the value of the neighborhood. And so here you see a mix of things. Behind us, you can see residential windows. They don't look like it from the outside. They look kind of like a historic home's windows, but you've got commercial sprinkler systems above us, fire line protection, things that cost $100,000, and then you've got the residential windows. Now they look great. It's not like they look cheap by any measure, but they are not storefront. And so those decisions were made to try to find a way to get this into the budget, but also this is a very odd spot. Next to us there are 5 or 6 very historic Tudor mansions. And so this lot is literally the only one that's on a conservation overlay. And so we actually had to design this like this, sort of to look like an old Tudor home. Early on, before we had learned a lot of what we know now, we didn't see some of the pitfalls in the project at the time. One, we saw this early on as a project that was institutional, so that we could buy, develop, and sell to an insurance company or something to that effect. And what we realized when it was done was that it wasn't big enough or expensive enough for institutional money to care about it. And of course, institutional money, there's not nearly as many institutions. And so there's a compressed cap rate for institutional money. So they generally have a cap rate that is 1 to 2 points lower sometimes than the market. And so, that was a lesson that we learned, that selling this as a single asset wasn't going to net us the kind of money that we originally thought it was. And so that, combined with the effective vacancy on a small apartment complex, had us eventually learning to change our direction here, and ended up condoing the entire building, which is a very complex process when you already have a loan and you already have deeds. And so midstream, with it already completely occupied, 100% occupied, we had to underwrite this project and change all of the legal for it to be condominium based. So we had to write deeds for 16 apartments when they didn't exist. There was just one deed to this building. And so we had to write deeds to all these spaces. So super, super complex. The legal work on converting this to condominiums was really tough. You helped us condo out the main floor, and you sold all of the retail down here. We sold this unit to one of the members, and you sold the other big unit to a really spectacular high-end tattoo shop called Safe House. And then basically Airbnb investors and rental investors bought all the ones upstairs. We did really, really well. So that conversion, looking at it differently, was the key. That was, changing the perspective was absolutely the key. We purchased the land for $300,000. I think construction was, 1.6, 1.7, and a lot of the development costs were, $500, $600, probably a $2.5 to $3 million development maybe at the time, maybe 3.
What did you guys end up exiting at?
I think close to $5.5 million.
How did your final exit price compare to your initial underwriting? Did you guys hit?
It was way more.
Way more, okay.
Well, because it wasn't underwritten as condominiums.
Right.
Yeah, I think we exceeded it by $500,000 maybe. I would do it again in a heartbeat because it taught me a valuable lesson, and the valuable lesson was to learn how to look at things from different perspectives. And so in my years since, I've had quite a few projects that kept running into a wall, and I had learned from this one to back up away from the wall and to see if you could find another way around it. And that is the key to this project. It's what made it successful.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Story of the Deal. If you are enjoying this series, check out this playlist right here. There's more, way more videos right there. Go check them out.